Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Coachside Story. Today, we're going to be doing an episode where we're going to be taking a look at some underappreciated veterans in the NBA. And these are guys who we think are extremely talented and extremely impactful and have been throughout their NBA careers. But for some reason or the other, don't get the kind of reputation and respect that they deserve from the NBA fans and NBA community. Today, the player that we're going to be looking at is Chris Paul, and this is a guy who's sort of like a Halley's Comet in basketball in terms of we've only seen a handful of guys of his talent and his height dominate the way they have in the NBA. And like the reason why we think like he's gone underappreciated is because he's a player who's so impactful, but he's going to go home, he's going to retire from the NBA without the accolades to show for it, right? He's going to go
Uh,
home with like empty hands.
throughout his career, he's never reached the NBA Finals. He's never won something like the MVP or like I think
I,
the most recognition he's really got is an All NBA first team. And like I think all of us agree that he is definitely a better player than what we've seen.
Definitely. I
At
think it's
least what
criminal
it
that
shows.
Japan has made only one conference finals in his career.
I think like
Definitely.
Paul's like done well. Like he's been one of the most consistent players across 2 decades. And like a lot of the players in the league acknowledge that. Like he gets the kind of respect that you earn among your peers and contemporaries when you play like that. But it's just that like I think circumstantially he's been like a little fucked over. Like a lot of the times things don't pan out the way they should to enable him to succeed, even when he's
I
playing at his highest level.
I think that Paul's biggest disadvantage or lack of luck, okay, was that he remained a pure PG, which was the form PGs took um earlier in the game, all right, and during like the 90s, early 2000s, even 80s, okay, and he kept that form while the game around him changed, and PGs became not just like playmakers, floor generals, but they also became, in a lot of cases, the primary scoring option. Okay, like if you see like a bunch of them, like Steph Curry, uh, Russell Westbrook, even if they're not
Lillard.
primary scoring options, they all became mass, like huge scorers. Harden, if you want to call him a PG, then
Dame.
there's a lot of them. Dame, yeah. There's like John Wall, however you go about it, right? Because like these people all became like scoring PGs while also being flow generals. Maybe not as effective as Chris Paul in terms of playmaking, but still the ability to do it is still there. Um, Chris Paul has started to be overlooked by our generation, okay, because he's not able to he doesn't score at that volume.
I think like while
Uh,
like our generation looks at him like that, I don't think like it's completely because he stayed as a pure PG. I think definitely that's a reason why we overlook him, but I don't think that's a reason why he's not been effective in the NBA. But also like I think like if you guys watch today's Lakers Suns game, right, which you guys like all of you really wanted the damn Suns to win. Like while I'm a Lakers fan, obviously I wanted Lakers to win, but it was a perfect microcosm of PG's of Chris Paul's career, right? It's the guy has like taken a team taken a good team like to great heights, right? He's taken and like he's shown incredible leadership. They won like a bunch of games, been like second in the conference and all. And now first round he's gotten injured again, right?
yeah.
It's like
I,
yeah, hmm,
I think that's been pretty much the story of his entire career. I mean, at least with the since with the Clippers as well, they were always like one of everybody would think they'd be the contenders that season, but come
yeah.
playoffs time, somebody gets injured, and like even though Chris Paul's still performing at the same level, they're not able to get wins in the playoffs, and people
Like
often like
uh,
say it's Chris Paul's fault,
Yeah,
but
like I
that's
think
usually
that
not the case.
the pure PG's point like holds some merit in the sense that like so at least in the last couple of decades or so, I can't think of any pure point guard who's won MVP other than Steve Nash. And like a
True.
lot of people shit on that also. A lot of people claim he didn't deserve the MVP and stuff like that. And like the only other PG who like played pure point who actually won that I can think of is Magic. And I wouldn't call Magic pure point because like that was some other shit. Like Magic could score, he could do a lot of stuff right at six
Position.
nine,
Yeah.
and like he threw the
Yeah.
flashiest dimes ever. Yeah, he redefined the game and stuff. So like I think that also set Paul back, like Amun said, like in the sense that because he didn't adapt to the way the game has changed today, right?
Bro,
Because
the
of
thing
that,
is,
like a lot of people don't recognize his MVP caliber performances.
no. So the thing is, in my opinion, right, basketball has always like in the game of basketball, scoring has always been given like we can talk about this like in a different like setting also, but I think scoring has always been given like the most priority or the rather the most recognition. Okay, like I don't necessarily think is right, but nonetheless,
Hmm.
this is the case. Okay, that's why like a lot of people, when Nash won his MVPs, we're just like, yo, what the fuck? This man's averaging like, I don't know, 18 points or something. All right. And while, I don't know, Kobe was averaging 35. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think that's the point. Like, there is more to the game than just scoring. And Chris Paul meets all of those criteria. Okay.
That's all.
Like,
But
whether it's
Yes.
even in terms,
playmaking,
oh, sorry.
defense, steals. Man's a four-time assist champion and three-time steal champion, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I also think Paul is likely the greatest scorer as a pure point guard. Like out of all the pure point guards I can think of, like you look at John Stockton, you look at Steve Nash, I think Chris Paul's scoring acumen also
Would
eclipses
you
those guys.
consider Isaiah Thomas, early Isaiah Thomas, a scoring point
He's
guard?
not a pure point guard, dude. Isaiah Thomas used to take over. Like, dude, Isaiah Thomas was their guy in the clutch and all. They'd throw it straight to him. So if you
You
look
don't
at
think
like
Chris
pure
Paul is like that
Chris Paul is
earlier?
like that, but but Chris Paul is like more of a pure PG. Like, in fact, like that's an interesting point. Like people like Chris Paul, Isaiah Thomas, right? Even though they look to play pass first basketball, at any point they can like switch up and take over the game. And I think like that's what contributes to the greatness of somebody like Paul. The fact that
Yeah.
like so we've talked about how like outside of his scoring he needs with like all the requisites in terms of playmaking, defense, all that. But even as a scorer, dude, like in his New Orleans days, right? Paul would like
Hmm.
put up great numbers. He was also a constant triple double threat, which doesn't really get recognized. And he's come close to having quadruple doubles with steals and stuff. So like he's done a lot of these crazy things that go under the radar just because of the way he embraces his role.
Yeah,
Bro,
like
and
he
like,
had
I mean, even so late in his career, we've seen him take over in the fourth quarter. Like, even now with the Suns, when they really need him, even though they have players like Booker, he still comes in the fourth quarter, makes those difficult shot, brings them back into the game, or just pulls away with the lead. And
yeah, yeah.
it's pretty insane considering how everybody thinks he makes the plays and stuff like that.
Like when I was doing research for this video, there were 2 points like that just moved me to tears. Right. One when I thought about like Chris Paul's career, and the other was when I thought about what it must be like to be a Clippers fan. Like it's just damn sad, bro. Like they were ready to take over to be dominant in the early part of the decade, but there were so many things that just destroyed their chances and destroyed their hopes.
Yeah.
I
Dude,
mean, they
Chris Paul was
also,
the first Clipper to be named All NBA since the franchise moved to LA. Like,
Yeah.
since then, they've had one, like, the first dude to be named was in like 2008 when Chris Paul made it. So, or like before that, if he did. But yeah,
I think
like, I think that itself shows, like, yeah, 2007. Like, and that's how screwed that franchise was until like Chris Paul, like, actually showed. No, wait, 2007 was the Hornets. I mean, once he made it as a
He
11,
Clipper.
came to
11.
Clippers in 11.
11, yeah, 11. So and like the crazy thing is in his debut season as a Clipper also they had an insane year. Like that was one of the best years the franchise had ever had. And I know they couldn't capitalize on playoff success, but I like don't think that takes away from how well Paul performed.
Yeah,
no,
exactly. Like if you look at,
all right. No, but like, okay, again, to play devil's advocate, right? But you guys say that it's not necessarily Paul's fault, bro. But like the truth is, whenever a team fucks up in the playoff series, right? Sure, it may be somebody's fault. Somebody may have not stepped up. So all of this, right? But like, who does the like burden of the blame go to, bro? I'll give you an example. It always goes to the leaders, okay, like the top
don't,
two,
don't
three
say
players.
Westbrook.
No, I'm not giving that example, bro. I was gonna give the example of a Clipper example, Kawhi, bro. Okay,
Hmm.
Hmm.
like, dude, if you look last year when they blew the 3-1 lead, right? Kawhi played game 4 and 5 damn well. No. Game 4 they won anyway. Sorry. Game 5 and 6 he played damn well. All right. But like, there was Fiji was just bricking everything and all, backboard
What else
fucking
is new?
George and
Man,
all.
compared to PG, Kawhi gets nothing but love.
No, one
I've
sec, one
not seen
sec. But
Kawhi get any. Yeah.
no, but dude, that
Just
doesn't
on a
matter,
side
bro.
note,
Once they lost, right? They got all the hate. Kawhi dropped 41 that day. Okay. He's still getting abused, saying, "Oh, bro, this man he can't guard Luca," and all, as if there's anybody in the league who can guard Luca well, bro. Okay, but you like my point is like that responsibility comes with being a superstar, bro. The moment you're a superstar, you shoulder that burden. Okay,
See,
No,
like
I
but
think
like
like,
most of the times,
huh,
Chris Paul is
TJ.
not one. It's not been his like it's been circumstances out of his damn control. I can think of one series that like you're also like that you also have in your mind where like people say that Chris Paul fucked up, right? That's the 2014 OKC series where like they were playing the young OKC team that went to the finals that year, and Chris Paul they had a chance to put them away, right? I think they were tied at 2, and like they had a chance to beat them in OKC and go back to LA with a 3-2 advantage, right? And like they were up by 7 points, I think, at that moment. But like some a series of like very improbable things happened. Like, not improbable. KD scored. Then like they had a really dumb turnover. I think Chris Paul turned it over, and like then I think Westbrook took a three, and he had one of the worst bricks I've ever seen in my life. Like it didn't hit the rim, it hit the backboard, it went the opposite direction. But a foul was called on Paul, right? And Westbrook like got to shoot 3 free throws. And then after that, like he tried to take like the game-winning shot, but and like people say he was fouled and all, but like in the end, it wasn't called, right? And they lost that game, and that went on to be the demoralizing thing that like affected their series, right? So this is one black spot in Chris Paul's career that I think maybe okay, that's also contentious because there were like a lot of shitty calls at that time. But otherwise, in his other playoff like runs, there have been like it's either injuries or highly improbable things happening, right? That have really derailed his
Or
playoff.
just facing
okay,
ridiculously
1 second.
difficult teams.
So, bro, like, okay, this OKC is like one of the playoff series. Okay, I agree. All right. But, like, again, this argument can entirely be made that the OKC team was very much on the same level as that Clippers team. Okay, I don't think OKC was like the better team. Right. Firstly. Secondly, so like, it's not like the Clippers or Chris Paul were facing like a better team. Okay. Yes, they had MVP KD. Okay. But like that was Westbrook's worst year. Like literally, since his rookie years, that was his worst year. All right. So anyway, putting all of that aside, bro, there's another example, bro, which I think like is very this thing. The next year, this was 2014 playoffs, right? The next year in 2015 playoffs, the Clippers blew a 3-1 lead, bro, to Harden's Rockets. Like that was another time, bro. Chris Paul was like, but like, see, I don't know, bro. I noticed this like when I was watching the replays of the game, bro. The Chris Paul which came out in the first 4 games was very different from the Chris Paul which like I'm not saying it's his fault, okay? Like it was just like an observation I made. It was very different from the Chris Paul which came out in the last 3 games. Okay. Like Chris Paul in the first 4 games was playing like the way he normally does. Okay, so which is what? Dropping around between 15 to 20 points, having their dimes, elite defending and all of
Minimal
that stuff.
turnover.
Okay. Minimal turnovers. But in the next 3 games, bro, Chris Paul he scored
Was
there, bro. He scored
I
some
think did he
26 to
injured? Like
31
wasn't
and
he
all.
injured or something?
He did
Nothing.
get
He was
injured, if
not.
I'm not wrong.
He was not
Dude, he
injured.
got injured through multiple games and played through. Like, even though he showed up as played, he was playing through injury a lot of these games. And like, there are also series where he had to sit by virtue of like injury. And like, there was even a series where both him and Griffin were out. So naturally, like the Clippers took the L. And I think like
In this one,
larger
they
than that,
weren't
the
injured
problem
though.
is, yeah, I get it. See, look, every superstar has black marks. Kobe blew a 3-1 against Phoenix. Okay, like I'm not saying Paul is not to blame at all. I'm saying this doesn't take away from his greatness to me because, for instance, in his like early New Orleans years, okay, like Paul led these guys to good seeding, second seed and stuff, led them to playoffs. And then like they'd play San Antonio in the first round, get fucked by Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, the likes, go home, understandable. Then they'd come back next year, kill it, first or second seed, ace it, go up against Kobe, MVP Kobe, Pau Gasol, get fucked, go back home. Okay, then they'd again come back, like work their ass off, get it. And what we could call their easiest matchup is probably that OKC team, bro. Like, and that's really sad because that OKC team was pretty tough. Like, they had KD, they had like, like they had a prime KD, they had Westbrook, even. And by the way, Westbrook in his worst year, which it was, I agree, was still averaging more points than Blake Griffin. Because like, and that's the thing, like a lot of people don't understand how little help Paul has had in a lot of ways, I feel. Like someone like Griffin is like very acclaimed because yeah, he can throw down the lob, he can do windmill jams, he can posterize people. But none of that necessarily translates to winning. Like, can you trust Griffin at the free throw line in the end of the game? Can you trust him to take a big shot? Like, and a lot of these things let them down. And in these kinds of moments, I think like there was a lot of pressure on Paul. And sometimes he showed up, sometimes he didn't. I'm not going to say he was like always there or anything, but I think nonetheless, the point that he took these teams to, the extent he elevated them to, is like pretty goated. It's like one of the highest impacts a player's ever had. Okay, so like another thing that often gets overlooked about Paul is the fact that even the accolades that he does have get overlooked in a lot of ways. Like, you don't often hear people talk about how good Paul is on the defensive end, even though he has 9 all defensive appearances. He's got 6 steal championships, which is an NBA record. Like, and I mean, he's also, if I'm not wrong, he has the record for most consecutive games with at least 1 steal. And that's also a crazy record to have to bring it every single game on the defensive end. So, like, Chris Paul's done a lot of cool shit like that. He also has an All-Star Game MVP, which is like, again, not obviously a very high award, but like I think it completes, rounds up your career a bit.
Which year was the All-Star Game MVP?
The year Drew was an All-Star. I remember because I saw this like live. This is a crazy game. Yeah, like it's he had like 20 points and 15 assists. Paul was crazy, and I think even Kobe played in that. You had D Wade. You had like a lot of really good stars showing up, and yeah, basically a lot of these achievements get overlooked again because like people don't think Paul is as good as he is, and he
No,
was
no, no.
also
Like
All
I
Rookie
think
Team Rookie of the Year. So
I think Paul's resume, okay, it's a lot more like, like just now we were comparing to another, like for example, another like great PG of the 2000s, which was Steve Nash. Okay, he has 2 consecutive MVPs and all. But like Paul's resume, if you look at it, is a lot more impressive than Steve Nash's, because Steve Nash is like defensively, obviously, because he's 6-time champ. He's he's like 9 all defensive teams. But Paul also has like 11 all NBA teams, while Nash has only like 7.
Yeah.
Bro,
yeah,
it's
that's true.
yeah, and the thing is, it's damn sad because if you like just from the surface level, a lot of people will put Steve Nash over Chris Paul just because of that, like just because of the fact that he has like those 2 MVPs,
Yeah.
and like, bro, like I think,
I mean,
Aru, which year
Bro,
was
I
it?
think
Aru,
this.
like, when he didn't win MVP over Kobe, you were telling me, no, that
2007, 8. 2007, 8.
that was that
So,
like I don't know if you guys agree, huh?
no. So
so like,
firstly, I'd like to say, okay, like Chris Paul's. So I'd say 2 closest chances Chris Paul had to MVP. Okay, which I think, like for the record, when they released the NBA finalists, MVP finalists this year, I think they snubbed the fuck out of Chris Paul. He should have been there instead of Steph Curry. Okay, because like, yeah, bro, what the fuck? Getting back to it, like 2007-8 was probably the closest he's been to an MVP. Okay, but I don't necessarily like if somebody like, okay, if you say he had an MVP caliber season, without a doubt, 100%. Okay, but did he deserve MVP over Kobe? Bro, it's contentious at best. In my opinion, no, he didn't deserve it over Kobe.
No, wait,
Same.
no, Aru, you were the one who sent those like crazy stats on the group, like he basically what was it? I don't remember.
so there are a bunch of like these advanced stats like offensive win shares, defensive win shares, then stuff like that, which he was better than Kobe in. But like even other than that, like his normal stats, he was averaging around 21 points that season, almost 12 assists, steals, almost 3 steals, and only 2.5 turnovers. And he had a very similar record to Kobe in standings as well. To the Lakers that year in standings.
One
And
game
It was
still,
a
difference.
one
Yeah.
game difference.
yeah,
One game difference.
yeah, exactly. And I think like, I mean, I know Kobe was snubbed before, so he probably had to get it sometime, but he probably had, like, Chris Paul had a very good case for MVP that season.
You
No,
could say
again,
like
That's true. That's true.
I absolutely agree. Like it's a brilliant MVP campaign for sure. Okay, but see, to say that Chris Paul hasn't won MVP, and I know that's one of the reasons he's underrated, bro. I don't think Chris Paul has had like a proper MVP season, bro. Like again, like I said, the closest he's been to MVP is
I feel here 1 second. I feel here again we're falling victim to something you yourself talked about in the beginning of this podcast, the kind of like viewpoint that our generation has when it comes to scoring PGs and like impact of pass first PGs. Like a lot of these teams, as like that Chris Paul has been on, would not be even close to how good they were if Chris Paul were not on them. Blake Griffin, man, could run, jump, and dunk, right? Which is what like Harden accused Giannis of like only doing last year, right? Chris Paul basically made that man and DeAndre Jordan's career highlight mixes. Okay, so like the fact that like we overlook this because like he didn't do something, and he did do insane things that year, right? I think like firstly, Chris Paul has been on like top 6 or top 5 of all of like MVP voting lists for 6 times this decade, right? Which is which is very insane, right? He's been like in the top 6 players of people's minds like for 6 years, like in a decade where you have an insane number of PGs who are very flashy, etc. But like also he's insane in terms of efficiency, in terms of playmaking and like his assist to turnover ratio, which I think aren't stats statistics that people like hold a lot of like give a lot of credit to when they are making their MVP picks.
Let me ask you
I
this.
think that's true, but like also like amount to like add like I think that see while you said CP3 hasn't necessarily had that kind of an MVP season, I would also say Steve Nash hasn't. The problem is the narrative that accompanies these things, and people just made it to look like Steve Nash is leading the most efficient offense in the league, as if to say CP3 isn't doing all those things. Like I think like the problem is that the NBA is nitpicking of these narratives has resulted in CP3 getting less respect than he deserves, at least from like popular perspective. And I think that started to change a little last year when like he carried like a bunch of children on OKC. Like I mean, dude, OKC's average age was less than some college teams. I was seeing this. I think the
That was this
Oklahoma
year.
State
That was
college
this
team.
year. That was this year, though.
Yeah. That's this year because CP3 was the reason last year that it wasn't the case because he was bringing up the whole average age.
No, I
But
mean there were
the
a lot of older players, bro. There was Gallinari, there was Schroeder.
Array, of course, yeah, I was kidding. There was the Stephen
Al
Adams. The
Horford,
point
was
is
that
that
Al Horford?
yeah, no, he joined this year. The point is
Oh,
that like nonetheless, CP3 carried what was like a team that had like what a 0.1% of making the playoffs. He took them there and like they came close. They had like a 7 game series against a team that had two superstars. Right. And most people, if you ask them today, would not say CP3 is as good as Harden or Westbrook. Right. And that's the problem that we're trying to highlight, which I feel that like CP3 does not get the respect he deserves just because he approaches the game in a different way than other guys who impact it.
And like one more thing is that he's done this throughout his career. It wasn't just in OKC. When he got drafted into New Orleans, he got them to the playoffs. I think within a year after he got drafted. After that, he went
mm.
to Clippers. As soon as he went to Clippers, they were considered contenders. He got DeAndre Jordan into an All NBA first team. He made a rookie, Blake Griffin, into such a good player. After that, he went to Houston, where again he was considered the missing piece. He led them to the best record in
Franchise
the West.
record 65 games. That's a
Exactly.
franchise record.
And after that, OKC. Then this year in the Suns, the only notable addition in offseason was Chris Paul. And from last year, where they just missed the playoffs to having the second best record in the West, it clearly shows the impact which he has on teams throughout his career, not just now that he's like a veteran or he's old.
Yo, okay.
So,
I
and
think
it's damn
another
impressive. One second, it's damn impressive the fact that like his game has changed over the years, like a little, like to a fair bit. Because when you look at him younger years, when he was with New Orleans, he was very like he was. I'd say he's as like, fast as Dennis Schroeder was now, while being a better shooter and like more explosive. Right, like he was quite athletic for a 6'1" guy, and like then later on with his injuries, he had to develop into like a much like I'd say a better shooter. Like he was obviously like a good shooter throughout, but he had to develop into a better one. And now like instead of like just using his speed to like run the fast break or anything, he has to make a lot more technical plays and like very high IQ decisions in order to be effective. And like recently, like another thing, he became, I think during his tenure with the Rockets, he turned vegetarian or vegan or something. He
Yeah,
made a
vegan,
huge
Yeah.
vegan.
change. Yeah, he made a huge change to his diet just because he was like he needed to be like to maintain his like reputation as a high level player. He had to make a lot of changes to his like training and regimen, and I think that's damn impressive. Like the guy is like
Like people
he's
talk about LeBron's longevity, but Chris Paul's just as good a case for longevity
yeah,
as well.
exactly. That's what.
I mean,
That's true.
okay, look,
I think in addition, one thing before we like sort of move on and lose the plot here, I wanted to add that Chris Paul this year had like from the floor he shot 49.9%, from deep he shot 39.5%, and from the free throw line he shot 93%, leading the league. And that's hideously close to 50-40-90. So just like his whole career, he's once again so close. Nobody will ever say, oh, Chris Paul basically had a 50-40-90, which he did this year. But just like every other year, he's just come so like that 5% short of it. And that's what's been
Motherfucking
something that's
Kyrie
been
had a 50-40-30, like 50-40
exactly
90 game this year, but
90.
Chris Paul doesn't.
I
He's
mean,
just
okay,
really
so firstly, bro, I adding on to what Krishna said, okay, I think like that's the perfect transition because I think the most important aspect of Chris Paul's game is his efficiency, and not just in terms of scoring, bro. Like we even spoke about turnover efficiency. Okay, he has I think like you guys said he has the lowest assist to turnover ratio. Okay, like LeBron James' assist to turnover ratio is about 2 point something for his career, 2.6 or something. Okay, Chris Paul's on the other hand is uh it's so much lower, bro. He's only averaged he's only averaged 2.4 turnovers, and his career average for assists is 9.4. So imagine that's like beyond four. Okay. And yet, like I'm just giving you an example. Okay, like narratives around LeBron say he's one of the greatest playmakers in the like. Like people put LeBron on the same level as Magic. Okay, in terms of playmaking, but leave Chris Paul out of this discussion, which I think is super unfair. Okay, so not only is he scoring, he's also had like multiple seasons close to 50, 40, 90s, bro. Okay, but it's not just this one. Okay, that's why, for example, I think that Chris Paul deserves this NBA MVP finalist much more than Steph Curry, bro. Not only did he have like such spectacular season, again, and he took this, he broke the Suns' 10-year drought and took them to. No, he didn't take them to like a sixth seed, fifth seed, no. He took them to a fucking second seed, right?
Yeah.
So, like, this is why I think. This is why I think again, like, okay, but it all boils down to the same thing, bro. It's just that he doesn't score. Okay. Like he doesn't score in these volumes which PGs do now. Okay. And therefore he's not given that same recognition, bro. That's like you can call it unfair, you can call it circumstance. Okay. Which whatever you choose to call it. But that is the fact in the end.
Mm.
I think
like,
the
okay,
only
would
way
you
that
guys
can ever be remedied is like if Chris Paul goes to the finals or wins the chip. And that's the one problem. Like that's the one thing that's eluded him his whole career. And like I
like
want the Suns to somehow do it this year. Like if these stupid Lakers didn't bloody drop the seventh seed like a sack of stones in the river, then
fuck
easily
off,
Chris Paul could have
man?
had like a good chance
That's
this year.
not their fault. You think the Lakers wanted to be a seventh
How
seed?
can they be seventh? Which repeating champion is
Dude,
freaking
they
seventh?
did not.
They drooped all
Dude,
the way like a wilting flower in the autumn. Motherfuckers, I don't know how they.
dude, with
Dude, it's so
LeBron,
pissing off.
AD, and Schroeder out, their fourth best player was Andre Drummond, and like fucking Kyle Kuzma and all had to make some crazy plays, which he
Dude,
like.
Schroeder is not out because Schroeder is not out because of some injury. He violated fucking COVID protocol. There's only one man to blame for that, which is Dennis fucking Schroeder, who told him to go out without a mask. Like, of course, dude, and like I just think that like the Lakers were underwhelming in a lot of ways, and it's so sad that Chris Paul, after all this, he lifts so many teams all the way up, goes up against unfair teams, and you finally think, oh, he's come up with Booker. They have one of the best backcourts in the league. You're going to see success. Round one, repeating champions. Like, what the fuck? It's so unfair that like this same bad luck pursues him throughout his career.
Man, and it's not like Chris
Bro,
Paul can
I
be
mean,
like
Lakers had
veteran.
enough chances, bro, to become the sixth seed. Like they did. They like
Yeah,
even after
yeah.
AD came back, they had won like 2 games, bro. 2 games if they had won, okay, they would have fucking taken the sixth seed. Even if, I'm not sure who won the series decider between Portland and
They
um
lost to Portland.
Yeah.
then yeah, exactly. So they won 2 games, bro, which is not like outlandish. Anthony Davis played a bunch of games after coming back where he was shit. Okay, like
Dude, he was shit till game 2 and 3. At game 2 and 3, man's decided I'm taking over. I'm the GOAT now. I don't like how can he just pull up like that, bro? It's not fair. And like Chris Paul has earned this season so hard. It's literally the most unfair thing I've ever seen.
Man, it's not even like Chris Paul can be like a scrappy veteran and like show some leadership and all. Like I said earlier today, the only in terms of flopping, the only one who CP is equal is LeBron. So like, it's not like he can do like I don't know, bro. It's a bit, dude. Also, like when I look at the Suns Lakers series, I see so many damn similarities between LeBron and Chris Paul in terms of like leadership and playmaking and shit. And like I don't know, it's a testament to both of them, like for being able to do this like so far into their careers. Because a lot of people say like, oh, LeBron is so great for like being able to do this, like years into his career. But I think CP's older, right, than LeBron. He's like
no, he's
36.
1 year
No,
younger.
no, he's younger. He's
1 year
younger. 1
younger.
year.
1 year younger.
1
I
year
mean,
younger.
also, bro, like, let's not be phased, okay? CP3 is not playing, like, as good as he is, he's not playing on the same level as LeBron,
Neither
okay?
is LeBron. Like LeBron's not playing on the
No,
same level as we
but see,
expect him
see,
to.
at the same time, right? Like in his rookie season, no one expected CP3 to play the way LeBron played in his rookie season. So
No,
correspondingly,
absolutely.
when you
I
look at
agree.
it,
I
yeah,
agree. Dude, I agree with your point, okay? I'm just saying, like, comparing CP3 to LeBron might be a bit outlandish, is all I'm
yeah, I
saying.
don't think we're going for that. I think it's just about like some players get so much credit for longevity, while some dudes it just gets overlooked. Like oh, CP3 and what is almost his like 16th year in the league is still kicking ass, and nobody like really seems to acknowledge like how hard it is for a player to do that this late in his career. Like it's really hard to be
Yeah.
the best player on your team this late in your career. Not even Dwayne Wade could do that, right?
Man, how
And it's
shite it is.
important to like, sorry.
Sorry, I was just saying how shite it is that like his possibly his most healthy postseason has been with the fucking OKC Thunder. Uh, and
Yeah.
like with Shea Gilgeous Alexander. And like, dude, I'd say like if Chris Paul was not on that team last year, like Lou Dort may have gone undiscovered because like that man
That's
Yeah.
showed
true.
up, and like that's now he's getting respect. Like I think he dropped 42 and all earlier this season, but like I don't know if he would have gotten the recognition and respect if Chris Paul had not.
Discuss this, but one point I have to agree with what you said, which I think we've left out, is like Chris Paul's height. Chris Paul is
Mm,
6 foot nothing, which in the NBA is 4 foot nothing. All right.
yeah,
Like like at that height to not only be a floor general, but to have the kind of inside scoring Chris Paul has displayed. His floater game, his shifty layups, his athletic ability, it all gets so
elbow
overlooked
puller.
just because yeah, just because his brand of basketball is not what people want to recognize as greatness, I think like, and Chris Paul is like undoubtedly going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And like 4 years after he retires, which is the requirement for you to go into the Hall of Fame, he should be there that fourth year, or it will be the ultimate disrespect. And I think that all the things we've discussed sort of contribute to how Chris Paul gets overlooked due to things that aren't his fault.
Yeah, so I think there's a good place to wrap up. I hope you guys enjoyed looking back at Chris Paul's career and as much as we enjoyed talking about it. And I think like all of us agree that he is one of the greatest point guards of our generation, definitely, and worthy of the name point guard. And
Yes.
we hope to continue the series of underappreciated veterans. So if you guys have any suggestions as well, please let us know in the comments. Thanks, and please like and subscribe.